Hello again. What does story say? I'm Dr. Pauline Baird telling the story of my village, our whispered stories, our family stories, our hidden, practiced, lost, and sometimes forgotten traditions. Loud talk story. Women have been very important in my life, and women have importance in the village of Buxton. The stories I'm going to tell you from here on out for the rest of this month are stories that I've shared in a keynote address I gave to the Guyana-Ottawa Association to commemorate the republic when Guyana became a republic. But I'm going to share some of it here because I talked about how you grow so big. So I want to ask you how you grow so big. All right. So when I think of village women who are of prominence and importance, I don't think of the big names. I'm not that girl. I do grassroots rhetorics, what I call village rhetorics. And I try to unearth the people that most people don't talk about. And when I think of a woman, my auntie baby comes to my mind. She was named Daphne Mildred Bacchus. We know her as Baby Daff, or my auntie baby. She was my mother's only sister. And I think of her fondly because she was the woman who my mother designated as the basket maker for all my tours or school outing. Back in the day, when I was a child, we used to have school tours and we would go to different parts of the country, to the match factory, to the lighthouse, to the madhouse, Linden, to the Blackwater Creek, the Dakara Creek, and so on. You guys remember that? Yes. I don't know if they do that these days, but that's what we did. But my mother was not the basket maker, because when you go on a tour, you have to have your basket. And your basket have to have nice sandwiches and rainbow cake and your Marby and your ginger beer and all these different things. Well, my auntie was a baker. And so my mother designated that to her. And so I relied on her for those things. My mother, by asking her to do these things, I believe she wanted her to be part of our lives, and for good reason. You see, my auntie baby was a homemaker and a stickler for good manners and good dress. She baked and cooked, and you can get cakes even on a weekday at my auntie baby. It's so much so that my auntie baby turned me into a Salara seller. For those of you who don't know what a Salara is like a bread roll. It's like a roll, but it has coconut, sweetened coconut with sugar and spices and so on, like cinnamon and things, and it's baked. And the coconut is colored red food color. And so my auntie used to bake that. And when I was a child, she used to give me a basket full to carry to school at Bladenall School to sell. And then I got named Salara Girl. I think it used to vex me so bad because my auntie turned me into a vendor. That's my auntie. She kept a well put away house. She had everything organized and she smelled nice too. And so I used to think when I grew up, I want to be like my auntie baby. She had a fancy headscarf, very thin, and she walked fancy like so, and she spoke as well. She was all bougie. Anyway, so when I talk about her, I talk about her in terms of learning how I grow so big, how you grow so big. You are the auntie baby? Good. I have explored women like auntie baby to tell another story and to ask how I grow so big. And I came up with a mnemonics called RAGE. RAGE, what is RAGE? Readiness, ambition, grit, and enduring engagement. That's how I grow so big, right? And that I can rage about. And when I tell these stories, I tell them because I'm trying to enact a methodology of how I am and how I became and I'm becoming, right? I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. I'll start off with my story, and then the next time I'm going to tell you some other stories of village women. So charity begins at home, so I'll talk about myself. That's the reason. Now, at age 11 or so, two things happened. By age 11, I didn't have a mother. I've told you many times on this show, my mother died and left us young, and so I had to be raised by other mothers, my different aunts and cousins and so on. And how my mother died, she died of grief because she lost two of her children in a fire. So the fire happened on April 10th, 1973, and by October 13th that year, she was a dead woman. So that left us destitute. So I didn't have that kind of mothering from my real mother. But my auntie baby, the second thing that happened, that she became a pillar in my life. And you know, when the sting of losing your mother gets you, after a while, you begin to wonder why she had to leave. And my auntie baby had a saying that offered some kind of consolation. And she used to say, when puppy na dead when he lil, he bong for ton dog. If puppy na dead when he lil, he bong for ton dog. And that is in the African wisdom of the village. It's a proverb. When I unpack this proverb, I come up with something that I borrowed from Dr. Frank Douglas in his book, Defining Moments of a Free Man from a Black Stream. And I will have him at the end of this month. He's going to come on with Book It to tell us about his book. Fascinating book. And he used a thing called SOAR. And SOAR means the situation, the objective, the action, and the results. When I look at the proverb, if popular dead when he lay bong to ton dog, I see SOAR in there. What's the situation? What's the objective? What's the action? If situation, conditional, that Popina dead when he live. What is the objective? To live. And what is the action? That's the part that has the mystery. Because to get to the results, we have to have the action. And Auntie Baby put it in motion so that I could become something if me na dead when me live. Well, you know me na dead become me the right day. So how did this whole thing happen? Let me tell you. I want you to come with me to the village. Come with me to the village as I unpack the story to show you a map or a trajectory of how I listen to stories and why I tell stories. Because I'm on here for a particular reason and for a specific reason as this. So, because I'm going to talk methodologies. Truth be told, that stories like these are transformative. When I tell them and children hear them, children at the Toucan Club, the Toucan 2 Multipurpose Club in Guyana, in Buxton, when they hear this, I want you to hear this, that stories can transform your lives. I was a girl like you. I was a girl like you. And my story can inspire you. That's why I tell these stories. Because when we hear stories, we become changed. And change is growth, right? There is no growth without change. Let me tell a story. My auntie baby taught me the R in rage, readiness. So she used to say a thing. Lives of great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight. But they, while their companions slept, were toiling upward in the night. H.W. Longfellow. So, my auntie baby didn't have a high school education. Maybe she went up to 6th standard as they had at the time. And it was a colonial time. She grew up to be many things, but I knew her in the proper job that I knew her in was at the University of Guyana. Now, at the University of Guyana, I had two aunties. One, Cecilia Baird, who was a former Minister of Education, turned Pro-Chancellor at the time. And the other auntie is my auntie baby. She was a janitor and the head charwoman. The Pro-Chancellor didn't take me to the university. It was a charwoman who took me to the university. Let me go. So, early morning, imagine, Brush Dam Road. She turned on the light. She wake me up because I slept at her house that night because I'm going to the university with her. She took turns taking us there. And it was my turn. And she got her coffee together, she packed her bag, and she dressed me, and we were out on the road walking. It's cool, and it's dark. I had never seen that time of day, ever in my life. Maybe 5 o'clock in the morning, or 5:30. And we walked out to the main road, and we got the hire car, or the taxi. And we drove to the University of Guyana in Turkine. It was a long way in. And I think we walked it. We walked in. And we got there. When I got there, she went to the security, she got her keys, and she took me to her little office. It was a little closet, a janitor's closet with the mops and the brooms. And we were there. You know, when she was there, I watched her operate. My auntie baby ran a snack shop out of the janitor closet with all them brooms and mops and the J's fluid and the what's not. She got fish and bread, she's selling. She got Salara, she's selling. All those things in a basket she pack, She got it in the janitor place there. And, later on when I attended that university, she was feeding all them people like Dr. Roy Bromell and all these people, Al Crichton, all of them. They buying from her. She ran a good side hustle. But back to my story. She took me to the university, and when it became day around 9 o'clock or something, she took me to the large lecture theater. And there was a huge statue in there, and it was like with many seats going up. And she plunked me down and she said to me, "This is where you take your place." Since then, I have taken my place. At 11 years old, or 10 plus, I took my place. And I'm still in that place because I've done school my whole life, my entire life. And 40 plus years later, I've still taken my place. What I learned that day I can connect it to my life right now, because on that day, I remember distinctly what the lecture was. The lecture was about the oral traditions of the Caribbean. Look at what I'm doing now. And a young Al Crichton, a teenager with fire in his voice and in his body language, he spoke about the oral traditions of the Caribbean, the Olag of Guyana, and the Blegazé of Jamaica, and the Sukwanti, and the different things. And I was mesmerized. So many years later, Al Crichton became my lecturer at the University of Guyana, taking Drama 101. Al Crichton became a lecturer in Guyana. And here I am, a product of that system, just hearing those stories. Now I do oral historiographies of Guyana, writing a dissertation about the transformative, about African Guyanese women from the village of Buxton transforming histories. I'm looking to how we can, move towards a cultural rhetorics approach to Caribbean rhetorics, using the stories of African Guyanese women from the village of Buxton to transform our oral histories. And that's why I came on this Facebook platform to actually publish that dissertation. But I got sidetracked, and I'm going to do it one day. As a matter of fact, many of the things I'm talking about have emerged from my dissertation. My auntie baby understood a couple of things. She understood the role of education. And she understood, she was like our translator. When we were in the street saying, "Baya, where you go?" She would change and say, "Boy, where are you going?" So we were allowed to use our oral language, our natural oral language from our culture. And she gave us the translation. So we are bilingual. At the time, we couldn't appreciate that. And this is a lady who went to school in 6th standard, giving us that. Currently, scholars are questioning the role of our Creole influenced languages. And some of us still deem it as bad. But my auntie babe took a different approach. She gave me 2 ways in which to speak: the English language standard and the Creolese, and allow me to do that. Caribbean scholars in the book Creole Composition are fighting for Creole languages. They say, and I agree, that we aim to write ourselves into composition and post-secondary education, and in every platform we can, because it is ours to own. And women have given me the pride in our language and a pride in myself. My auntie baby did that, the janitor at the University of Guyana. So I use this platform to brand our civic engagements with our stamp across all platforms where people can hear me, that our Creolese is alive, our women are valuable, and we can learn from them. Therefore, my work is very, very intentional, and I ask you, how you grow so big? Tell the story, I walk good.